Explosive revelations rock Buckingham Palace as Queen Camilla is accused of manipulating King Charles's decisions behind closed doors. Senior aides and insiders claim Camilla has quietly reshaped royal priorities, from patronage shifts to public engagement cancellations, all under the guise of supporting the monarch. But now, the cracks are too big to ignore. William is said to be furious. Charles is caught in the crossfire, and the palace is scrambling. Is this a silent coup from within the royal household, or the beginning of a total collapse of trust at the heart of the monarchy? Camilla's influence exposed. On November 28, 2025, royal insiders leaked what some are calling the biggest internal breach since the Sussexes' departure. Multiple senior aides stationed at Clarence House and Buckingham Palace confirmed that Queen Camilla has been steadily exerting influence over King Charles III's royal decisions, and not in an honorary capacity. For over 18 months, Camilla has reportedly shaped decisions about engagements, patronages, and even internal staffing, bypassing traditional advisory channels. What was once dismissed as speculation has now erupted into full-scale concern. Tension reached a boiling point in late October 2025 when Charles suddenly cancelled two high-profile royal engagements closely tied to Catherine, Princess of Wales. Both appearances had been on the calendar since June, aimed at reintroducing Catherine into public life after her recent health break. But within days of private meetings between Charles and Camilla, both events were scrapped with no explanation. Palace aides close to William and Catherine were stunned and suspected something deeper at play. A Clarence House press officer, speaking on condition of anonymity, revealed that Charles had been 100% on board with Catherine's return weeks earlier. But a shift occurred after a quiet weekend retreat at Highgrove House, where Camilla and Charles held private consultations. It was like someone flipped a switch, the aide said. Suddenly, there were concerns, delays, and then cancellations. And every time, Camilla's name came up. Facing media uproar, Buckingham Palace released a statement on November 30, 2025, claiming the changes were due to routine scheduling adjustments, but the damage was done. Royal correspondents began connecting the dots, and all pointed to Camilla. Her influence, long whispered about in royal corridors, was no longer deniable. One aide summarized it bluntly. "It's no longer a whisper, it's a pattern." The growing scrutiny over Camilla's behind-the-scenes role didn't stop with a cancelled engagement. In fact, insiders suggest that her influence is much deeper, rooted in how she manages the flow of information to Charles himself. As we move into the second revelation, it becomes clear how power can be wielded subtly, with strategy rather than spectacle. How Camilla pulls Charles's levers. Behind the gilded doors of the monarchy lies a web of influence, and at its center, according to palace insiders, is Queen Camilla. For months, whispers circulated about how she's been controlling what and who reaches King Charles. Now, those whispers have solidified into claims backed by former aides, royal historians, and even distant family members. The method? Not loud commands, but quiet control over access, information, and image. Camilla is said to rely heavily on pre-briefings, private sessions with Charles ahead of major meetings or decisions. In these confidential sit-downs, often held at Clarence House or during secluded weekends at Birkhall Estate in Scotland, Camilla reportedly frames certain royal matters in ways that align with her vision. According to an insider who attended 3 such briefings between May and August 2025, Camilla often phrases suggestions as, "What's best for the crown?" but always with a subtext of personal benefit. Her control also extends to the inner advisory circle. Sources claim she subtly influences which aides and advisors get FaceTime with the king. Notably, several senior staff with long-standing ties to Prince William and Catherine have seen their access reduced in the past 6 months. Meanwhile, individuals with previous connections to Camilla's days, as Duchess of Cornwall, have seen promotions or strategic reassignment to high-level posts in communications, scheduling, and protocol. She plays the gatekeeper, one royal protocol expert said. If you want to reach the king, chances are you'll go through Camilla first, or not at all. This manipulation of proximity has even extended to William, who reportedly had to reschedule 2 private meetings with his father in September 2025 due to intervening diary conflicts. Palace insiders suspect Camilla's interference in both cases. This steady tightening of influence would soon hit a personal nerve. While many of Camilla's maneuvers had affected aides and optics, her next target appeared to be much more symbolic and much more personal: Catherine's long-awaited return to royal duties. What unfolded next wasn't just a scheduling shift, it was a confrontation between legacies. Sabotaging Catherine's return. The tension turned unmistakable in mid-October 2025, when plans were underway for Catherine, Princess of Wales, to return to public life following her recovery. A major children's health summit scheduled for October 22nd was to be her first major solo event in nearly 7 months. Behind the scenes, excitement was high. Prince William, senior aides, and even Charles had expressed support. But the event was quietly pulled from the royal calendar just 5 days before it was set to happen. Leaked emails from a palace operations team member show correspondence between Camilla's private office and the king's scheduling secretary. One email dated October 16, 2025 reads, "HMQ suggests postponement until further assessment. Concerns raised re readiness and media optics." Another reads, "Consideration should be given to alternative appearances, less taxing." These emails were reportedly flagged by staff close to Catherine, who viewed them as a direct attempt to undercut her return. For many within Kensington Palace, this was the breaking point. Catherine had been medically cleared, prepared with speech material, and briefed by her charitable teams. She was ready. The last-minute withdrawal raised eyebrows, not just because of its suddenness, but because the rationale did not come from medical advisors or her immediate staff. It came from Camilla's circle. A senior aide who has worked with the Waleses since 2014 said, "This wasn't about health. This was about spotlight." Catherine's team suspects Camilla feared being overshadowed during a period when her own public favorability was already slipping. Social media was abuzz with support for Catherine, and many viewed her return as a hopeful turning point for the monarchy, one Camilla may not have welcomed. Favoritism and power games. As questions mounted about Camilla's interference in royal planning, a deeper investigation into her inner circle revealed troubling patterns. In just 14 months, she has been linked to at least 6 internal promotions of loyalists, many of whom had previously served during her years as Duchess of Cornwall. These weren't just ceremonial roles. Insiders say these placements were strategic, giving her allies control over press releases, event coordination, and direct access to King Charles. Key among them is Hugo Beckwith, a former PR strategist with ties to Camilla's Clarence House days in the early 2000s. He was quietly appointed to the King's communications team in March 2025, replacing a veteran advisor known for his loyalty to William and Catherine. Another notable figure is Alexandra Henley, an old family friend who was recently assigned to handle the king's international travel protocols. Sources say both selections bypassed the usual vetting by the Lord Chamberlain's office, prompting concern. Staff close to Prince William report growing frustration as longtime allies are being systematically sidelined. One palace source said in September 2025, "There's a clear message being sent. If you're not aligned with Camilla, your influence is limited." As her team solidifies control, critics argue that Camilla is not just consolidating power for herself, but ensuring long-term control over the institution, even beyond Charles. By October, murmurs had turned into full-fledged complaints. Aides from Kensington Palace submitted an internal memo highlighting imbalanced representation across royal initiatives. Their concern wasn't just about personnel, it was about influence, access, and trust. This is no longer a matter of preference, one insider warned. It's a matter of constitutional integrity. The rise of Camilla's allies inside the palace didn't just shift the internal hierarchy, it ignited deeper personal tensions. As Charles seemed increasingly surrounded by her loyalists, one senior royal wasn't willing to stay silent. William had seen enough. Clashing with William. Prince William, long known for his diplomacy, made an uncharacteristic move in late October 2025. According to multiple insiders, he confronted King Charles directly, asking who is really making the decisions. The topic: Camilla's interference in Catherine's return, and the growing list of unexplained cancellations and altered plans. The meeting, held at Sandringham Estate on October 26th, lasted over 2 hours and was described as tense but necessary. William reportedly expressed concern that public confidence in the monarchy was eroding, not because of scandal, but because of confusion. "We're sending mixed signals," he told his father. "This isn't what the public expects from us, especially now." Sources say Charles was visibly unsettled by the confrontation, but refused to directly implicate Camilla. Instead, he asked William to trust the system. Following the meeting, William and Catherine quietly pulled out of 2 joint engagements with Camilla and Charles that were scheduled for early November 2025. Official palace statements blamed scheduling conflicts, but the decision was deliberate. Behind the scenes, William began holding private meetings with key palace aides, reshuffling his own team to insulate it from Camilla's influence. The situation intensified after a briefing note was leaked to the press, allegedly from Camilla's office, suggesting William was too emotional in managing royal duties amid Catherine's recovery. The narrative, critics say, was a strategic move to undermine his credibility, but it backfired. Public sympathy surged for the future king, and many began to see him, and not Charles, as the monarchy's moral compass. While the rift between William and Camilla grew more public, the internal machinery of the palace began to react. Senior staff, some of whom had served under Queen Elizabeth herself, began raising red flags. They feared the institution was veering into dangerous territory. The palace reacts. The royal household is famously discreet, but even the most loyal aides have limits. In early November 2025, veteran palace officials, including some who served during Queen Elizabeth II's reign, began voicing alarm over Camilla's growing control. According to internal memos leaked to The Times, at least 4 departments, including press, protocol, and scheduling, are now believed to be under direct influence from Camilla's network. An internal audit of appointments and decision-making patterns between January and October 2025 revealed a sharp tilt in influence toward Clarence House veterans. "This isn't about titles," said one senior official. "It's about who's running the show." The audit findings were reportedly shared in a closed-door briefing at St. James's Palace with select advisors, including 2 members of the Privy Council. Alarmed by the findings, a small group of senior courtiers, nicknamed the Restoration Circle, began drafting a private memorandum for King Charles. The document, described by insiders as respectful but urgent, outlines risks to the monarchy's credibility and advises restoring internal balance, specifically reducing consort influence on matters of governance. The memo was completed on November 12, 2025, and awaits formal presentation. Meanwhile, Camilla's office attempted damage control. On November 14th, a carefully worded statement emphasized Her Majesty's full respect for the King's leadership and institutional processes. But by then, the press had already latched on to terms like shadow reign and silent sovereign. Veteran royal commentator Angela Marshall, writing in The Telegraph, noted, "This is not the palace Elizabeth left behind. This is something else entirely." The Diana factor. As whispers of Queen Camilla's shadow influence circulated through the palace, observers outside couldn't help but draw chilling comparisons to the past. In a reminder of 1995, when Princess Diana's now iconic Panorama interview exposed the emotional distance inside the royal family, history seemed to be repeating. Only this time, the roles had shifted. Once seen as a rival, Camilla now sat on the throne Diana was never allowed to reach, and according to insiders, was using it to consolidate her power. Public reaction intensified when a rare archival clip of Diana, filmed in May 1991, resurfaced across social media platforms. In it, she subtly hinted at interference from those around the prince who wanted control over everything. The context, once thought ambiguous, now appeared prophetic. "It's eerie," said a royal historian from Cambridge University, who noted the parallels between Camilla's actions in 2025 and the same tactics Diana once feared in the early 1990s. Within Kensington Palace, staff members reportedly viewed the current dynamic with a sense of déjà vu. "It's as if the ghost of the past is walking these halls again," one aide told the BBC in November 2025. Multiple royal watchers pointed to the emotional distance between Charles and William, the very divide Diana fought so hard to prevent, as now being manipulated by Camilla's influence. The emotional weight of Diana's legacy, still strong even 26 years after her death, loomed large. Across Britain, the public sentiment shifted rapidly. "This is not what Diana would have wanted," became a common refrain across talk shows, tabloid headlines, and social media. Hashtags like #DianaWarnedUs and #CamillaOverstepped trended for 3 consecutive days on platforms like X and Instagram. The monarchy was no longer battling private drama. It was fighting the return of a ghost that had once shaken it to its core. The past echoed loud and clear, but the present was louder. As Camilla's name dominated headlines and Diana's warnings came back to life, public opinion turned swiftly. A once measured queen consort now faced the full force of the people's judgment. Public turns on Camilla. The fallout came quickly. Within 48 hours of the internal memo leak on November 12, 2025, public approval ratings for Queen Camilla dropped by 26%, according to the YouGov Royal Tracker. Even staunch royalists expressed concern over her growing role in decision-making. The BBC, Sky News, and Daily Mail all ran segments asking the same question: is Camilla overstepping her bounds? The debate had gone mainstream, and it wasn't in her favor. Across London, Manchester, and Birmingham, spontaneous protests emerged near symbolic landmarks like Buckingham Palace and Parliament Square. Protesters carried signs reading, "Not my queen," "Catherine deserves better," and Diana's warning was real. The divide wasn't just political, it was generational. Royal historians noted that those aged 18 to 34 were overwhelmingly in support of William and Catherine, while support for Camilla plummeted among all demographics under age 50. Social media exploded. Memes portraying Camilla as a puppet master controlling Charles flooded platforms. Influencers and commentators began dissecting past footage for signs of manipulation. A TikTok video comparing Camilla's body language to Charles's during public speeches gained 3.7 million views in under 24 hours. Even mainstream news anchors could no longer ignore what had once been palace rumor. In damage control mode, Camilla's office released a November 16th statement saying, "Her Majesty serves at the King's side with full respect for institutional traditions." But it was too late. The public was no longer buying scripted lines. They wanted transparency, and most importantly, they wanted Camilla out of the spotlight. Even amid the chaos, one figure stood calm and poised: Catherine, Princess of Wales. As Camilla stumbled in public opinion, Catherine's quiet dignity became a silent response. But behind her silence, there was more than grace. There was a strategy. Catherine's silent response. In the weeks following the growing scandal, Catherine kept her public engagements minimal, but meaningful. Her first appearance since the fallout occurred on November 20th, 2025, at a private children's hospice in Surrey. There were no press statements, no flashy outfits, and no commentary on the headlines. Yet her mere presence spoke volumes. "She didn't need to say anything," noted one observer. "She reminded the world who the people really trust." Insiders at Kensington Palace revealed that Catherine was fully aware of the internal conflict, but chose a path of quiet strength. Rather than confronting Camilla publicly or feeding the media fire, she remained focused on causes close to her heart: early childhood education, maternal health, and family support. "She leads with substance," a senior aide said. "While others play politics, she builds trust." Behind closed doors, however, William and Catherine began holding private strategy sessions. Their team, now operating independently from Charles's inner circle, began preparing for a longer-term shift. The couple had already seen how public support can swing, and now they were ready to step into the power vacuum left behind by Camilla's faltering image. If the monarchy is to survive, one insider noted, it's with them. By November 25th, calls for Catherine to assume a more prominent role were mounting. British tabloids dubbed her the People's Queen in Waiting. Polls showed 78% of respondents believed Catherine was the most trusted royal, a number not seen since Diana's time. And all of this without a single direct quote on the matter. Silence, in this case, was Catherine's loudest statement. As Camilla's reputation unraveled and Catherine rose, the monarchy faced its most defining question since Queen Elizabeth's passing. Could it still uphold the values of duty, integrity, and transparency? Or had internal power plays finally pushed the institution too far? What comes next? By late November 2025, the palace stood at a pivotal moment. King Charles, under growing pressure from aides, the public, and even the Privy Council, was forced to reconsider Camilla's role in day-to-day decision-making. Insiders confirm that on November 27th, he held a confidential consultation with constitutional advisors regarding the limits of consort influence. A move unprecedented since the time of Queen Caroline in the early 18th century. Public opinion demanded action. On November 30th, a parliamentary watchdog group, called for a formal review of the monarchy's internal advisory processes. While symbolic, the move captured the national mood. Accountability was now expected, even behind palace gates. Several MPs hinted at proposing legislation to prevent unelected royals from having influence over constitutional or civic matters. At the heart of it all stood William and Catherine, now viewed as the stabilizing force for the next generation of royals. With approval ratings soaring above 80%, public sentiment made one thing clear: the future belongs to them. The question for Charles became whether to resist that shift or embrace it while he still had time. Camilla's position remains unclear. Some insiders say she may step back for health and reflection, while others argue her presence will continue to polarize the public. But one truth is certain: the monarchy can no longer afford the luxury of shadowy influence. Transparency, trust, and unity are no longer optional. They are survival tools. And as the curtain falls on one chapter, the world watches closely to see how, or if, the crown will rise again. The revelations surrounding Camilla's manipulation of Charles's royal decisions mark a watershed moment for the modern monarchy. This isn't just another palace squabble. It's a full-blown institutional crisis unfolding in real time. For months, Camilla's growing influence over key appointments, charity shifts, and event cancellations was whispered about in private corridors. But now, the whispers have turned into shouts, and the monarchy can no longer ignore the storm she has helped create. King Charles, already under immense pressure from political demands, health rumors, and public scrutiny, now faces an internal reckoning. His role as sovereign is being questioned, not because of personal failing, but because of who has quietly assumed power beside him. Senior aides, many of whom served faithfully under Queen Elizabeth II, are reportedly outraged. They describe a silent override of traditional protocols, with Camilla placing loyalists in key roles and freezing out dissenting voices, particularly those loyal to Prince William and Catherine. The emotional weight on the royal family is unmistakable. William, heir to the throne, has reportedly confronted his father more than once in recent weeks, questioning why Camilla's influence continues to grow unchecked. Sources confirm tense private meetings, with William warning that the public's trust and the monarchy's future hangs in the balance. This isn't just about power. It's about legacy. It's about Diana's son watching history repeat itself. Meanwhile, public opinion is rapidly shifting. Camilla's approval has plummeted across polls. Online campaigns like #StopCamilla and #NotMyQueen reflect the generational rift that the monarchy is now forced to reckon with. Catherine, ever composed, remains the monarchy's quiet anchor, her silence casting a louder contrast against the chaos swirling around Camilla. The question now isn't whether Camilla went too far. It's whether the monarchy can survive the consequences. If Charles fails to reassert leadership and draw clear boundaries between queen consort and crown, the damage may be irreversible. As the world watches, one truth remains. This is no longer a private crisis. It's a public reckoning for the House of Windsor.